The 49ers exposed the Dallas Cowboys. We all saw the clobbering that they gave Dallas on Sunday night, 42-10. Then not only did they expose the Dallas Cowboys for frauds, but they also exposed the Dallas Cowboys' two biggest reasons for why I believe that this team is not going to be winning anything worthwhile for the foreseeable future. All right? Dak Prescott, Dak Mid-Scott, whatever you want to call him, he isn't good. All right? The dude looks like he can't run the football effectively anymore. His decision-making still is god-awful in late games. And, you know, his first couple of games into this season, I cut him a little bit of slack. He wasn't necessarily blowing me away, but they were playing against crappy teams. The Rams, they played the Rams, they played the New York Giants, the Jets. So it's not like they were really playing anybody who was going to be able to make them pay for their lack of efficiency on offense until they ended up getting a reality check by the San Francisco 49ers. And it's funny how many Cowboy fans going into this season were putting all the blame on Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was fired. He was Dallas offensive coordinator last season, and I believe he was the scapegoat. How the hell is the offensive coordinator the reason for Dak Prescott throwing multiple interceptions in big games? Like against the Jacksonville Jaguars last year. You remember when he threw the game-sealing interception to Rayshon Jenkins in overtime? Well, Dak Prescott is back, people. 3 interceptions against the San Francisco 49ers. Who are you going to blame now, Dallas fans? Because Kellen Moore isn't there anymore. You can only blame one or two people. Either you got to hold Dak Prescott accountable for his shitty performance, or you got to put the blame on Mike McCarthy. And offensively, when you look at Dallas offense, from a statistical standpoint, comparing this year's offense to last year's offense when Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator, there's not really a lot of big differences. All right, Mike McCarthy's play calling has been a little bit questionable at times, but when you're looking at how productive this offense has been, there hasn't really been a huge drop-off. Now, last season, when Kellen Moore was calling the plays, he was really good at finding ways to get the Dallas Cowboys in the end zone anytime they got inside the red zone. They had the best red zone offense in the league last year. They were scoring in the red zone 71% of the time. Well, this season, with Kellen Moore being gone and Mike McCarthy taking over as the play caller, their red zone offense has been non-existent. Anytime they get in the red zone, there's a high chance that they're going to end up kicking a field goal. Dak Prescott, his mobility hasn't really been utilized that much in the red zone area. And even when it comes to their run game, this run game hasn't been as explosive as what it looked like last season. And I know the stats say otherwise. I mean, they were 9th in rushing yards per game last year. They're 10th this season. But Tony Pollard hasn't really had any big explosive runs, at least the same amount of runs that he had last year. I feel like Tony Pollard and this offense have taken a step backwards in terms of their ability to generate explosive plays. And not just that, but this passing game has taken a major step backwards. I mean, we thought that Kellen Moore was the reason for why the Dallas Cowboys passing attack wasn't as good as what it possibly could have been. And that's why they ultimately decided to fire him in a move that I never agreed with in the first place. And it's not like Mike McCarthy has been regarded as this great play caller. At best, he's an okay play caller. And you can kind of see that because you improve your wide receiver position, right? You bring in Brandon Cooks. Where has he been? I've barely heard Brandon Cooks' name called at all. And then you got CeeDee Lamb, who you're struggling to get the ball to, who recently came out and voiced some frustrations with his lack of touches in the offense, although he deserves a little bit of responsibility for that because he isn't really doing a great job at getting open because he's getting doubled and triple teamed. This offense under Mike McCarthy doesn't look as good as what it did under Kellen Moore. And Cowboy fans, I'm asking you this, and I want you to be honest with me. All right? Who is a better play caller, Kellen Moore or Mike McCarthy? Based on the small sample size that we've seen out of Mike McCarthy calling plays for Dallas, do you think that he's doing a better job than Kellen Moore? Because I think the statistics show otherwise. I mean, this offense is pretty much the exact same offense that it was when Kellen Moore was calling the plays, minus the ability to score in the red zone. So you can't score in the red zone. Dak Prescott is still throwing interceptions, so that hasn't changed, and you're unable to get the ball to your best players on offense. I think that the two biggest problems with the Dallas Cowboys are with their head coach and their quarterback. All right. Is Dak Prescott a terrible quarterback? No, he's not. But is he a quarterback that you can win a Super Bowl with? I don't think he is. And at one point, I used to defend Dak Prescott. Not defending him saying that he's an elite quarterback or anything, but I was defending him saying that you can win with a Dak Prescott. All right? But the thing with Dak Prescott that I've started to realize is that it's kind of hard to make it far in the postseason with Dak Prescott because you can't trust him in big games, especially in big moments. I mean, anytime the Dallas Cowboys needed Dak Prescott to make a big play, he was unable to do so. And I don't know why he refuses to run the football a lot more. I never felt like he was a great athlete, but it's not like he never had any mobility in the first place. People make it seem like this dude just came in and he was running a 4.8 or a 4.9. Like, I still think that Dak has enough juice left in the tank to be a little bit more of a factor in the run game than what he has been up to this point this season. And shout out to my guy, Non-Swirl Zone, with the $2 donation. He says, bro, JT Sports cracked me up. Good analysis. It's like, yeah, man, like the way I'm trying to analyze Dallas offense, I'm trying to do it without completely crapping on Dak Prescott. But it's hard not to do that when you see him throwing 3 interceptions to the 49ers. 2 of those picks come into the backups. How are you going to throw interceptions to the backups? It's one thing to throw an interception or 2 to the starters, but then they take the starters out, they put the backups in, and you're still throwing interceptions. And at one point, do Dallas Cowboy fans, as a collective unit, finally say, you know what? Dak Prescott, he just isn't it. There's nothing wrong with you being a fan of your team and you saying that I don't like our quarterback doesn't put us in a position to win. It's funny how everybody talks about how Dallas and the Dallas Cowboy brand is one of the biggest brands in all of sports. It's the most popular team in the NFL, but yet you have average quarterback play. Why are Dallas Cowboy fans and Jerry Jones so okay with good when you really need great? The last time Dallas had a great quarterback was Roger Staubach and Troy Aikman. And I was going back and forth with a couple of delusional Cowboy fans on TikTok and Instagram who had the audacity to tell me that Tua isn't better than Dak Prescott. Like, what the hell are you smoking, man? Are you serious right now? Are you serious?
Come on, man.
And here's the thing, right? If I'm going to take any fan base advice when it comes to what an elite quarterback is and isn't, I'm not going to take any advice from anybody that's a Cowboy fan that screams, Dak Prescott is a top 10 quarterback. Dak Prescott is elite. You know, there were so many Cowboy fans screaming that before the season started. I know y'all saw it on Twitter. And I know y'all guys get back and forth with Dallas Cowboy fans every single week damn near when it comes to how they view Dak Prescott. For some reason, Dak Prescott is viewed as a god in Dallas. No matter how bad he plays, no matter how many picks he throws, people are just going to continue to make it seem like he isn't the problem in Dallas. If he isn't the problem in Dallas, then who is? It's either one or two people that's holding back this team from greatness. Is either Big Mike McCarthy or is Dak Prescott? Which one is it? Hell, I think the easy answer is just to say both. I think after this season, both of those guys, Jerry Jones, should just leave town. Don't give Dak Prescott another extension and fire Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy doesn't make this team a Super Bowl contender. If you had Sean Payton as your head coach, and we're going to get into him a little bit later, I think that Dallas will be a way better football team than what they are now. Save me the whole excuses about injuries. Every team is dealing with injuries. Good teams have to overcome injuries. That's just a part of the game of football. I get sick and tired of people every single week saying, oh, we got this dude out. We got this guy out. Who cares, bruh? It's freaking football. Nobody goes through an entire season with no injuries. That's just how the game is, man. When you're playing the game of football, you're trying to make it through the season, trying to overcome adversity and trying to overcome lingering injuries. I don't think any player goes through a whole 17-game regular season without having some kind of injury that they're playing through. So save me the whole nonsense about the injuries on the offensive line and the other injuries that you've had on defense to Trayvon Diggs. Like DaRon Bland, I think he filled in perfectly for Trayvon Diggs. He caught a pick six against the New England Patriots, and he was looking pretty fine to me. And you got Stephon Gilmore. The Dallas Cowboys have so much talent, and yet we wonder why this team continues to disappoint year after year after year in big games. Well, the reasoning is because, one, they never have top-notch coaching. Mike McCarthy, he's better than Jason Garrett. And I do think there's a pretty big gap between him and Jason Garrett. But is Mike McCarthy as good as a Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay? Hell no. There's a reason why the 49ers continue to run circles around the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't think it has anything to do with talent. There's no way you can tell me that the 49ers were 42-10 better than the Dallas Cowboys. Both of these teams have two of the best rosters in the whole entire NFL. The reason why the 49ers clobbered the Dallas Cowboys was because they didn't have great coaching. You see, when you have a great team, but you don't have top-of-the-notch coaching, that's what holds you back from winning a Super Bowl. When you want to win a Super Bowl, not just do you need to have a great team, but your team has to be well coached. The players just don't coach themselves. And that's something that the Dallas Cowboys haven't had since, Tom Landry? Bill Parcells? Jimmy Johnson? I mean, it's been like decades since the Dallas Cowboys had a head coach roaming the sidelines that you can look at and says, hell yeah, like, he's a damn good coach. Mike McCarthy, he's not a bad coach. I think he's an okay coach. He's good enough to get you to the playoffs, but that's about it. It seems like the Dallas Cowboys, every single year they get all these high expectations and people try to give them the benefit of a doubt. And you try not to hate on the fan base because, I'm never going to slander a fan base for being passionate about their team. But at the end of the day, there has to come a point where you got to look at yourself and you got to say, we're really gassing up a team. We really thought that we had a chance to win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy as our head coach quarterback duo. Like, what? The Dallas Cowboys need to upgrade at quarterback, and they need to upgrade at head coach. Now, I don't know what will be an upgrade from Dak Prescott. Hell, I think that if you go from Kirk Cousins to Dak Prescott, that's a slight upgrade. Not a major upgrade, but a slight upgrade. At least Kirk Cousins has the ability to win a couple of big games for you. I know him and Dak Prescott kind of are in the same tier of quarterbacks that aren't able to really come through when it matters the most, but at least Kirk Cousins can come through a little bit more than Dak mid-Scott. Because that's what Dak Prescott is. He's mid. And you used to be able to win a quarterback. You used to be able to win a Super Bowl with a mid quarterback. But it's 2023, people. In today's NFL, having a great team and an okay quarterback isn't going to be good enough to cut it. Look at the current state of the AFC right now. The AFC is the equivalent to the Western Conference in the NBA. The majority of the NFL's best quarterbacks play in the AFC Conference. The best quarterback in the NFC is Jalen Hurts. That's the only quarterback that you can look at in this conference and label elite. So therefore, I'm looking at Jerry Jones and I'm wondering, when are you going to make the next big move to try to get an elite quarterback in there? There's nothing wrong with having a Dak Prescott in terms of if you want to have a winning team and you want to have a little bit of playoff success. But if you want to be able to win a Super Bowl, you got to be able to have top-tier quarterback play. And I don't think that the Dallas Cowboys are ever going to get that out of Dak Prescott. I know a lot of Cowboy fans love Dak Prescott. He's a great leader, great captain. But he just isn't in that quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys in terms of them having championship aspirations. They're like, when I look at Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, I say, they got a shot every single year because of Patrick. Same thing with the Cincinnati Bengals. But you look at the Dallas Cowboys and you look at Dak Prescott, do you really think he gives you the best chance to win a Super Bowl compared to other quarterbacks in this conference, such as Jared Goff and Geno Smith? I mean, a couple of years ago, it would have sounded absurd to say that those two quarterbacks were better than Dak Prescott. But now, it's not even insanity anymore. It's just the new reality that we live in. Dak Prescott is a top 15 quarterback. He's nothing more, nothing better than that. The Dallas Cowboys aren't going to win shit with Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy being in the Big D. And I'm wondering when Jerry Jones is going to go ahead and roll the dice. It's been a very long time since we last saw Jerry Jones really roll the dice, and he seems like he's super committed to winning a Super Bowl. I know Jerry Jones wants to win one more Super Bowl in his lifetime, but is he really going to put that in the hands of Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy? If he is, I think that Jerry Jones should be satisfied with all of the Super Bowls that he currently has, because unless he's willing to make a swing at quarterback and head coach and bring in a top-level head coach and bring in a better quarterback, the Dallas Cowboys are going to be stuck at the level that they are, which is they're going to be a playoff team. They may win a wild card game, make it to the divisional round, but that's about it. And even if they make it to the conference championship game, you just know they're going to find a way to blow it. And that's the tough thing about the Dallas Cowboys. I hate judging teams based on history, but there's no team that continues to prove a narrative painted by the national media to be true more than the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not really somebody that is a big fan of Stephen A. Smith, but he has a really good point when he says, when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, what can go wrong will go wrong. Again, that's true. I mean, there's no way anybody expected them to get dog walked by the San Francisco 49ers the way that they did. It doesn't matter if it's the regular season. You want to know why? Because this is the same stuff that's been happening year after year with the Dallas Cowboys. And they say history repeats itself. History repeats itself, it seems like, every single season with the Dallas Cowgirls. They get all this attention. They get all these high expectations. And for one time in my life, I actually thought that the Cowboys had a legit shot at being able to make it to the Super Bowl. Now, did I pick them to win the NFC? No, I didn't. I picked the Seattle Seahawks, but I at least felt like they had a great chance. My guy, Juice, he didn't even have the Dallas Cowboys labeled as Super Bowl contenders, and I felt like he was being really disrespectful to Dallas. I felt like Dallas' roster was too good not to label them Super Bowl contenders, but it turns out he was actually right. Dak Prescott isn't good enough to get them over the top, and neither is Mike McCarthy. Save me the whole excuses about injuries. Like, people always find ways, Dallas fans do, they find ways to continue to defend Dak Prescott. Last year was Kellen Moore. This year, I don't know what the excuse is going to be. I can't wait to find out. But even though the Dallas Cowboys continue to disappoint year after year, they make for some damn good television. Like, I love watching the Dallas Cowboys because they're always going to find a way to give you some entertainment. Even when they were getting blown out by the 49ers, I continued to watch that game because I wanted to see if they were going to put in Trey Lance. And instead, they put in Cooper Rush. And it really was mind-boggling to me because it's like, man, what's the point of trading for Trey Lance, young quarterback with upside that hasn't really worked out that much, that needs reps, if you're not going to give him a chance to get in the game and get his feet wet when you're down 42-10? What are you putting Cooper Rush in there for? We know Cooper Rush is a solid backup. We need to know what we can get out of Trey Lance. Trey Lance needs reps. He's not learning anything on the sidelines. He didn't learn anything on the sidelines behind Jimmy Garoppolo. And he's definitely not going to learn anything on the sidelines holding the clipboard behind Dak Prescott. The Dallas Cowboys, as much as I love to hate on this team at times and love to poke fun of this team, they make it too easy. Just be honest. this team is so easy to make fun of because of the fact that they always find ways to underperform when you just have a little bit of expectation for them. I wasn't expecting the Dallas Cowboys to beat the 49ers. I thought they could at least keep it within 10 points, at least. I wasn't even surprised at the final outcome of that game because that's just what the Dallas Cowboys are. They look nice on paper. They're always going to win the offseason. Like, you look at the Dallas Cowboys before the start of every season, and you always look at their roster, and you always say, like, bro, they got a great roster. They're stacked. Yeah, they always are stacked. But they always have mid or above, barely below average coaching. And that's not good enough to cut it. Mike McCarthy, he may be able to win you the division, get you to the playoffs, win you a playoff game or two, but in terms of winning a Super Bowl, he's not good enough to get you there. And neither is Dak Prescott. The Dallas Cowboys, after this season, they need to kick these two guys to the curb and bring in some fresh blood in there. Bring in a new head coach. Hell, I think that the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator would be a perfect fit. And then find out a way to get you a new quarterback in there. Maybe you could try to draft run in this upcoming year's draft. There's a lot of them to pick from. But Dak Prescott's decision-making makes it hard to trust them in the postseason. I'm not counting out Dallas. I'm not saying that they're not going to make it to the playoffs. I'm not going to go that far. I'm even going to say that I still think they got a shot to win the division over Philadelphia. But am I picking them to make it far in the playoffs? No. All the Dallas Cowboys are good for is for, making a lot of noise in the regular season, winning the offseason. They're the Super Bowl champions of the offseason. If they gave out Lombardi trophies based on offseason hype, the Dallas Cowboys will win that shit every single year. But when it comes playoff time, put up a shut up time, the Dallas Cowboys get forced to shut up. And the 49ers made the Dallas Cowboys shut their mouths in terms of Super Bowl expectations with their 42-10 beatdown. And they exposed the two biggest problems with this team: the head coach and the quarterback. Mike McCarthy had no answer for anything that the 49ers were doing defensively, and Dak Prescott, he didn't have an answer neither. And I felt bad for Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn is the best defensive coordinator in the NFL right now, but there's only so much you can do when your offense doesn't do anything. And yeah, his defense could have played a lot better, but I'm not going to blame Dan Quinn for that loss. I'm going to put it on the offense. The offense hasn't really looked that great this year. And I'm eager to see what they're going to do their next couple of games with their schedule really starting to ramp up. We're about to truly find out what kind of team the Dallas Cowboys are. Are they off-season prima donnas? Or are they an actual legit Super Bowl contender? Because I just think, they're just pretenders. They look good on paper. They're off-season warriors. They're off-season champions. But when it comes to the regular season, they disappoint every single year. They'll make it to the playoffs, and then they'll end up losing, and then they'll get sent back home in ugly fashion. And my last thing with the Dallas Cowboys is that it seems like every time this team is in a big game, they just find out ways to go out in the most embarrassing fashion. It's like, how embarrassing is it to get clobbered on Sunday Night Football 45-10? Or 42-10? Did you guys know that Dallas Cowboys 49ers matchup was one of the most viewed Sunday Night Football games in a very long time? And they just got clobbered. 25 million people tuned in to watch a good game, and instead, they watched the murder on live television. Like I said, man, the Cowboys, they aren't going anywhere with Dak Prescott and Big Mike with their head coach quarterback combination. Jerry Jones needs to switch some things up.